Good morning, children. This video lesson is the first part of the video lesson series on the last lesson. This first part contains 4 sessions. The first session is about the author Alphonse Daudet. The second session, a little about Franco-Prussian War and German unification. And third session, a little about the theme and background of the story, the last lesson. And the fourth session of this video lesson contains a full reading of the text, the last lesson. On the author Alphonse Daudet. He born in 1840 and died in the year 1897. He was a French short story writer and novelist. He is now remembered chiefly as the author of sentimental tales. The sentimental tales related with the provincial life in the southern part of France. Another important thing you have to remember about Alphonse Daudet is the influence of the Franco-German War in his writings. Even though the Franco-German War had a profound effect on his writings, one of the humorous episodes in his life was when his name was enlisted for the Franco-Prussian War. He fled from Paris, but he was a humanitarian. He was a kindly patron of younger writers of his time. For instance, Marcel Proust. Marcel Proust was a famous author enlisted in the Indian University's research and higher studies. He also served in school in France for a short period. And he wrote this lesson in the year 1873, the last lesson. It was written in 1873. The last lesson is written in the background of a war. The war is the Franco-Prussian War, or it is known as the Franco-German War of 1870. It was a conflict between France and the German states of the Northern German Confederation led by the Kingdom of Prussia. Prussia was then one of the states of Germany and lasting from 19 July 1870 to 28 January 1871. This war is known in France as War of 1870. The conflict was caused by Prussian ambitions to expand German unification. The German states proclaimed their union as the German Empire under the Prussian King Wilhelm I. Finally, uniting most of Germany as a nation state. Austria was excluded. Earlier, Austria was one of the states of Germany, but now it is an independent nation, Austria. It is not part of Germany. The Treaty of Frankfurt of 10 May 1871 gave Germany most of Alsace and some parts of Lorraine to Germany. And it ended this treaty in the year 1873. This is the background in which the story, the last lesson, is written. Now let us look into some of the prominent themes discussed in the story, the last lesson. One among them is linguistic chauvinism. What does chauvinism mean? It is a devotion for something, for or against, that based on what you feel, and it may not be what you know. So linguistic chauvinism here means one considers his language as superior to that of others. This happens generally when the language is that of the ruling class. Linguistic chauvinism. That is one of the prominent themes discussed in the story, The Last Lesson. The last lesson revolves around the language and its importance to the citizens of a country. It establishes the fact that language is the identity of a country and its people. The story reveals how, after defeating France in the war, the Persians wanted to rule over not only the conquered territory of France, but also over the minds and hearts of the French. They wanted to rule, they wanted to dominate over the people there, the French. The story reinforces the fact that we value something more when it is lost. We don't know the value of eyes when they are there. When we lost it, we begin to understand its value. So this story reinforces this fact. The value of something more when we lost it. The pain and anguish of the students, the villagers, and the teacher is evident as everyone realizes how things were taken for granted. This is a common, a usual way of taking things by the people. Here in this story, the people consider their language, their mother tongue, as lightly as something in their life. But when the right to learn their language is taken away from them, they realized its importance. The lesson emphasizes the importance of mother tongue for everyone and the need to realize the fact that it is our language which gives us our identity, respect, and freedom. Beyond this, the story deals several other themes like nationalism, struggle for existence, identity, definitely the uncertainties of life, and the importance of education, and the after effects of war. All these themes discussed in this little story. As I have already told you, this lesson, the last lesson, is written in the backdrop of Franco-Prussian War. So you are supposed to know something about the war. I am trying to convey what is this Franco-Prussian War, how many lives lost in it, and what happened at the end. This is through a video clipping. Now I am going to play it. Watch. Listen carefully the audio descriptions along with the video.
July 1870. France is fighting Prussia. As the European superpowers square off, murderous new weapons are changing the face of war. As soldiers take cover, war moves off the battlefield and into towns and villages. For decades, France had kept an eye on Prussian ambitions. Napoleon III decided the best form of defense was offense. In 1870, he attacked Prussia. Again, the railway would play a crucial role in war. But possessing railways was one thing. Using them efficiently was another. Instead of dispatching troops straight to the front, the French sent them to regional depots.
The reservists were wandering all over France looking for their regiments while their regiments were at the front. It took a long time for the army to concentrate the forces it had available. The forces were anyhow inferior in number to those of the Prussians. There was simply bad command, bad management. The staff didn't know, for example, how to run the railway system properly. And even when in contact with the enemy, the armies themselves were worse handled than the German armies.
Only 16 days after the outbreak of war, 400,000 Prussian troops had reached the front. 2 days later, 1.25 million, a feat of mobilization unmatched even in World War I.
The French system was far more rigid, far more centralized, and unless you got orders, you didn't do anything. And that, I think, was the reason why the Prussians were able to bring superior numbers to bear at decisive points on the battlefield, and the French weren't.
The Prussian war machine rolled west toward Paris. In 1 month, the Prussians would march halfway across France, but first they would pay a heavy price. With both sides using the most advanced weapons of the industrial age, there were bitter battles at the frontier. At Raisonville in 1 day, the French lost 16,000 men, the Prussians 17,000. At Gravelotte-Saint-Privat, 8,000 Prussian guardsmen fell in 20 minutes. Total casualties at Gravelotte were 13,000 French and 20,000 Prussians. The French were killing the invaders at a horrific rate, but still the Prussians advanced. This photograph of French and Prussian soldiers at Sedan may be the first to show troops under fire. It is a remarkable picture by any standards. But most remarkable is, even with a battle raging, the soldiers seem more interested in the camera than their own safety. At Sedan, France was defeated. Effectively, the war was over. But Paris would not surrender. Bismarck ringed the city with artillery. It was a siege. Over 4 months, Prussian artillery bombarded Paris. In the end, the Parisians were starved out. On January 18, 1871, at the magnificent Palace of Versailles, a German empire under Wilhelm I was declared. In less than 50 years, the armies of Bismarck and Moltke made Germany the greatest land power in Europe. With $1 billion in reparations from France, the Germans built modern Berlin, a triumphant new capital for the new Germany, studded with monuments to its military glory. But more than the new Berlin was founded by the war settlement with France. The French had not just lost $1 billion at the end of the war. Germany also took the border provinces of Alsace and Lorraine. The French burned for revenge. For now, Germany was satisfied. Europe would enjoy 4 decades of peace. 4 decades for industry to manufacture bigger and better ways of killing. Four decades for science and engineering to take war into the skies.
Sorry students, this video went too lengthy, so the reading presentation is included as a second part of this video lesson. To get to the link, you subscribe and press the bell icon. Thank you.